Okay, I think we're ready.
Thank you, Tabitha. Let me kick things off. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the July 25th, 2022 meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit Board of Directors. Obviously, this is a virtual meeting, and all speakers, the board, and staff, please announce your name when you begin to speak. This meeting is being live streamed, and the slide on the screen shows you the information on how to join our webinar via Zoom. You can also call into the meeting at 253-215-8782, and the webinar access code is 874-4873-5028. If you're participating by phone, please push *9 to indicate a desire to comment. If you're joining us online through Zoom, please push the raise hand button and be sure to unmute yourself when it is your turn to speak and voluntarily state your name for the record. Tabitha, would you call the roll, please?
Sure will. Director Budge?
Here.
Director Harris?
Here.
Director Howell?
Here.
Director Hume? Director Jennings is absent. Director Kennedy?
Here.
Director Natoli?
Here.
Director Chenier is absent. Director Cerna?
Here.
Director Valenzuela?
Here.
And Chair Miller.
Here.
With that, we have a quorum at 8 votes, and this meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse. Today's meeting will air on Wednesday, July 27th at 2 p.m. and Friday, July 29th at 1 p.m. on Channel 14 and webcast at metro14live.saccounty.net and is closed captioned. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/Metro Cable 14.
Thank you, Tabitha. And with that, would everyone join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Let's call the first item, please.
So the first item is the consent calendar, items 2.1 to 2.13.
Are there any director questions or items that you wish to have pulled?
I'll move consent.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve consent. Any public comment?
Yes,
Just on the consent calendar.
Glenn Mandelkorn has his hand up.
Glenn, please identify which item number you'd like to speak to.
Okay, this is Glenn Mandelkorn. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What item are you wishing to comment on?
Yes, I would like to comment on number 2.2, the one about extending the current arrangement we have here with Zoom until August 24th.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my suggestion is this. SAC-RT recently had 2 events in June, on June 14th and also on June 22nd, which were held at the 29th Street Auditorium, where you usually have these board meetings. These particular events were SAC-RT recruitment events, and these events lasted each 5 hours. Most of our board meetings here, from what I've seen, are typically 1 to 1.5 hours. So that would be like the span of 3 board meetings. I would like to see maybe for the next iteration of this, that this be studied, that we consider just like you opened the auditorium there for these events, that I was at these just out of curiosity, and I saw that inside the room there, along the edge where the board members typically sit, those seats were taken up by different SAC-RT personnel. And then the interior of the room, there were about, I would say about 10 to 15 attendees. Altogether, I would say there were about 25 to 30 people. And so I would like to suggest that action be taken to bring back board meetings there physically while still providing this Zoom option. I was thinking also in terms of the hashtag SacRT Strong, that maybe something can be presented as to SacRT is strong again, strong in terms of bringing back writers and bringing back public input in person. I think that I actually saw reporter Tony Bizjack there on June 14th. I'm not 100% sure, but his face looked familiar. So I thought that he could also provide a story to this when you do decide to go public again. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Tabitha, any other public comment?
Jeffrey Tartagia has his hand up.
Jeffrey, what item number would you like to comment on?
Oh, Jeffrey.
Jeff, you there?
Oh,
Tabitha, what's going on?
Well, it looks like he has called in on 2 different numbers and he has his hand raised again. So
ouch.
Can you hear me now? Because I couldn't get through the device.
I can hear you now.
Okay, I just
What
couldn't get I couldn't get my cell phone to unmute,
I
respond.
got it.
But
What item number would you like to address, Jeffrey?
let's pass on this because you do not seem to have anything about the minutes. And I was wanting to ask about the minutes in the general manager's report if they matched up. So please go ahead with the consent docket since I don't see any mention of the minutes.
2.1.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And with that, are there any director comments? If not, would you please call the roll?
Director Budge,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Aye.
Director Howell,
Yes.
Director Hume,
Aye.
Director Jennings is absent, Director Kennedy,
Aye.
Director Natoli,
Aye.
Director Chenier is absent, Director Cerna,
Aye.
Director Valenzuela,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
Aye.
The consent calendar passes with 9 votes.
Thank you, Tabitha. Next item, please.
The next item is item number 6, public addresses the board on matters not on the agenda.
Very good. Do we have any hands up?
There are some hands up. We have
Okay.
Jeffrey Tartagia,
All right, Jeffrey, you're on again.
I've got the right device now, I think, to work through here. I want to thank Henry for both the, what I see earlier comes on of the report back of what took place at your closed session. I also want to thank him as a ambassador about, appreciate how both, Barbara and I have been working on the bus cancellations. If the board have noticed today, there's 21 buses routes that were canceled, just trips. But when you cancel a whole area, i.e. Rancho Cordova, i.e. Natomas, and they're gone for a morning, you leave riders wondering. I'm hoping that the further, shall we say, article that goes in the next bus stop clears up where the communication is. I have appreciated working with some of the RT people, that getting the word out and getting it better explained on the website of how to look and correspondingly how to make it work. I'm hoping that we will have a means yet on the buses where if you know you're canceling buses, that you can flip the sign up that says, check the website. There are routes that are canceled on this bus route. So I will leave it at that right now for the moment. There are many other things. I like what I saw with Mike Barnbaum, so I hope you board members have read through the reports, and I'm waiting for the general manager's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Next speaker.
Next, we have Allison Kustik.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I'm actually walking home right now from a bus trip home from work. So please excuse any audio issues, but I'm commenting on the distinct lack of service and declining amount of service in East Sacramento and River Park in particular that is concerning for me. I, last summer, for a good majority, this past year, have taken the 134 bus route, and then it was cut back in April to essentially be a school bus with one trip at about 7 o'clock and one trip at about 2:30, which for someone who works downtown on a 9 to 5 schedule, that doesn't service me. And I was further upset to find out that the advertise for public comment. The person who I spoke with at SACRT actually was very confused as to why that would happen, because as it's stated everywhere, the 134 is a commuter route. And so I would implore you as the board to restore full service to this route in September. That means multiple trips in the morning, multiple trips in the afternoon, so that it truly is a full commuter route for people who need it to commute to and from work, as well as people who are taking it to school. And, you know, the suggestion from SACRT is that because this bus route has been cut back, we're suggested to take either the 30 or the Smart RT. The 30 is at least a mile walk for me. And it is for many people in River Park, a mile or more, and that's not feasible. Not to mention, if I can get a ride to the 30, there were at least three morning routes canceled on that this morning. So it's not feasible or reliable for people who want to take this every day to commute to and from work. And the Smart RT bus is the one I just walked from a ride because it doesn't go fully into River Park. So I would encourage you to, 1, restore full service to 134 route, 2, make the service you do have more reliable, and 3, expand the boundaries of the Smart RT routes so that people can rely on public transportation as a primary form of transportation in their daily lives. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Allison.
And next we have Glenn Mandelkorn.
Okay. So my comment here is also about bus trip cancellations. I actually have some positive observations here with regards to this issue. So my comments are as follows, because in May and June, I was getting very concerned because the number of bus trip cancellations that I saw almost on a daily basis were between 70 to 90. And it was kind of challenging for me to try to get people to consider taking RT when they could justifiably say that they wanted to, but they couldn't count on the buses coming. However, this month of July, I've noticed a significant drop in the number of cancellations, about 20 on the worst days. And lately, in the last few weeks, I've actually seen some days and times when it's down to 0, the ideal case. Worse, these last few weeks, maybe 9, single digits. So I was thinking, I remember that back at the end of March, I had seen Blanca Salcedo from Bus Operations. I saw her on Univision encouraging people to become bus drivers. She was doing this in Spanish, so I thought, well, maybe some of the viewers were persuaded to try this, and now we've got some bus drivers. So if that is the cause, or regardless, I wanted to give a special thank you to Blanca Salcedo. I would like to say muchas gracias, muy encantadora, which in English means thank you so much. It was very enchanting. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I just
Yes, go ahead.
for a second? Thank you, Glenn. Your observation actually directly relates to how many positive COVID cases we have had in each of those months. In May and June, we had over 60 positive COVID cases, primarily among our bus operators. And this month, we only have about 25 cases. So that's why in June and May, our bus cancellations were kind of high. Now this month is much lower. And we are trying everything to make sure we can fill all those trips with our bus operators. But it's just this COVID situation, it's affecting us uncertain time frames, sometimes high, sometimes low. Get back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Henry. Next speaker.
There is no more public comment.
Okay, well then let's move on to the next item, please.
The next item is new business, item 7.1, resolution 2022-07082, annual performance-based evaluation for the general manager, CEO, Henry Lee, and the Fifth Amendment to Employment Contract. And Shelley Valentin is here to present this item.
Thank you, Tabitha. Good evening, Chair Miller, directors, and members of the public joining us tonight. So the board met in closed session on June 13th to
Hold on a
conduct.
sec, Shelley. Glenn, fix your mic. Or Tabitha, there you go. Okay. Sorry, Shelley.
That's okay, thank you. So the board met in closed session on June 13th to conduct the general manager's annual performance evaluation. And 2 weeks before this meeting, the board was provided with a comprehensive list of SAC-RT's accomplishments for fiscal year 2022, as well as the general manager's goals for fiscal year 2023. These documents are attached to the staff report for this item. And this is our second year of implementing our new strategic plan approved by the board back in 2020 that incorporates performance measures for all of our strategic priorities. This year's goals and accomplishments and next year's goals are all guided by our strategic pillars: operational excellence, customer satisfaction, community value, and employee engagement. This new strategic plan introduced SAC-RT's performance scorecard with quarterly metrics, tactics, and milestones for achieving goals. Attachment 4 of the staff report presents SAC-RT's FY22 performance scorecard to date, showing an overall score of 91.4 out of 100, indicating that SAC-RT is making tremendous progress in all strategic performance areas, even while operating during a pandemic. The board determined that the general manager met or exceeded the key performance goals set for FY 2022. And in recognition, it is proposed that the general manager receives a 3% performance-based salary increase, which is similar to what the Management and Confidential Employee Group, or MSEG, and all other employee union groups have been receiving in recent years. Staff also conducted the research on comparable CEO contracts within California transit systems, as well as some local public agencies, and determined that 12 months of severance pay for termination without cause is more in line with current standards. And as such, the proposed contract amendment will also modify Section 8D of Mr. Lee's employment contract to increase the number of months he is entitled to receive if terminated without cause from 6 months to 12 months of pay. So before you is a resolution approving the general manager's FY22 performance evaluation and the proposed amendments to his employment contract as I described. And that concludes my report. Thank you. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Shelley. I'll take director questions, then public comment, then any comments by directors. Are there any questions? Hearing none. Any public comments, Tabitha?
Yes, Jeff Tartagia has his hand up.
All right, Jeffrey.
It looks like he put his hand down, but let's see.
There it is. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. I'm on the cell phone and it seems to not connect well. And Tabitha, Barbara was on for public comment and you just missed her. But in this sense, what I'm asking is dealing with this report right for here and now is one of the missed somewhere strategic opportunities was dealing with Mariposa Village. What's up there on Richard Boulevard that already has 40 inhabitants in. I believe you're compensating by expanding the microtransit, but you need to get the word out that the 40 residents of Mariposa Village up there, it's available to them. I don't think it's that well known yet, so please get it in the next bus stop, and I will consider the rest to make as public comment a general manager's report. And I don't know, Steve, whether you can go back, because I believe Barbara's still on with her hand raised, but I've had difficulty getting in. I don't know what difficulty she's having of getting to talk to you. And I will stop.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I don't have a problem, Tabitha. If she's had her hand up for item 6 and we missed her, let's go ahead. Let's finish this item and we'll go ahead and take her. So any other public comment on this item?
I don't see any other hands raised, and I haven't seen the ridership for the masses hand raised, but I can allow her to talk when you're ready.
Sure.
It does look like Director Harris and Director Hume have their hands up now.
Director Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Look, Henry is pretty much universally loved. I'm very proud of his performance as general manager. I think the accomplishments that have been proposed by Henry and followed through with staff effort have been very good for RT. So I'd like to move this resolution.
All right, motion from Harris and Mr. Hume.
If you'd like to call for a second, I'd be willing to concede till that time. Or I can proceed with comments. I don't want a second, so I'll just go ahead with my comments.
Oh, okay, I hear you.
I've made things more confusing than they needed to be. I'm going to abstain from this item, not because I have any lack of confidence in Henry. I think he has done a fantastic job since he's been here. I think a lot of the troubles that are happening organizationally are due to a perfect storm of things that have happened in the transit industry and in our society at large. Henry is doing his best to manage those, and unfortunately some of our service expectations are not being met through no fault of his, but because I was unable to attend the meeting wherein the board was able to provide feedback, I don't feel comfortable voting on the whatever was agreed upon. So I will be abstaining from the vote. So therefore I will not second the motion.
Okay, got it, Director Hume.
I'll second.
Okay, I've got a second from Director Valenzuela. Any other director comments before we call for the vote? Seeing and hearing none, please call the roll.
So for vote on 7.1, resolution 2022-07082, Director Budge,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Aye.
Director Howell,
Yes.
Director Hume,
Abstain?
and Director Jennings is absent. Director Kennedy,
Aye.
Director Natoli,
Aye.
Director Chenier is absent. Director Cerna,
Aye.
Director Valenzuela,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
Aye.
Item 7.1 passes with 8 votes.
Okay, does ridership for the masses have their hand up?
She did put it up for a second, so I'm gonna give her permission to talk and hopefully this will work. Barbara, are you there?
Yes, I've been here since 5:27 with
Sorry
my
about
hand
that.
up, so
Sorry,
thank you
Barbara.
very much.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm happy that some people came and spoke about the bus, the bus, there I am. I'm happy that some of the people spoke about the bus cancellations prior to me speaking. But our group, and as Jeffrey said, is still very concerned about the bus trips being dropped. And we are meeting with Deborah and other RT staff members to figure out ways to contact people who do not have electronics to let them know that their trips might be dropped. And we've had 2 meetings now, and hopefully we'll have more in the future on this subject, and we will come to some sort of conclusion that will reach out to everybody that is impacted by the bus trips being dropped. And I just wanted to say thank you very much for expanding the downtown Smart Ride to Marisol Village. As you know, they're not on Google yet, but they do have the Marisol Village in your system. So they do have a bus stop there. I was at a leadership council meeting the other day because I'm on the leadership council for the Simple. And they were talking about the bus stop. And so thank you very much for that. And we look for a solution to get the word out to people that don't have electronics when the bus trips do go down. And so thank you very much for allowing me to speak, Chair Miller and directors, and have a great day.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you for everything you do. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And with that, let's move on to the next item, please.
The next item is new business, item 7.2, resolution 2022-07083, declaring an emergency and delegating authority to the general manager, CEO, to approve and execute a contract over $150,000 for replacement of a damaged overhead contact system pole. And please note that this item does require a 4/5 vote, and Laura Ham is here to present this item.
Good evening, Chair Miller, directors, and members of the public. We are requesting a motion related to the stated resolution that will declare the damaged overhead contact system pole, or OCS pole, replacement an emergency. The pole in question is east of the Marconi Arcade Station. A structural analysis was performed at this location, which determined that the pole must be replaced in less than 60 days. Staff has completed a temporary fix at this time, and trains are operating through the area on a slow order until the pole is replaced. This authorization would allow the general manager to enter into a contract over the amount of $150,000 for the replacement of the damaged pole. We have received one quote for approximately $175,000 and are in the process of obtaining additional quotes from qualified contractors with experience with OCS systems. Funding is set aside for the project for up to $200,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Quick question. What caused the damage?
There was a failure in the pole, and it caused basically the pole to twist.
Okay, so nobody hit it.
No, it was an electrical failure essentially.
Okay, got it. All right, any questions from the rest of the directors?
I will move approval of resolution 2022-07-083.
Motion by
Natoli, second.
Director Bud. Who seconded it? Was that Director Natoli?
Yes, thanks, Steve.
Okay. All right. Any public comment?
Yes, we have Jeff Tartagia.
All right, Jeffrey.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I apologize. I was having a hard time in what I looked at your agenda, which was 7.3 of a proposed citizen, to where this emergency come up through there, and I don't find it on the posted agenda. Was it included at the beginning and I just missed it? Or
Yeah, it's item 7.2.
Got it. I'm sorry. I'm looking at 7.3. So I apologize.
Apology accepted. So we have a motion from Budge and a second by Natoli. Please call the roll.
We do have one more hand up. Barbara Stanton has her hand up.
I apologize, Barbara. We keep trying to skip you.
I was playing with the upper and lower hands, sorry, to see if it was working. So I don't have a comment, but thank you very much. I'm done. That's good, Linda. That's good.
Positive test.
Okay, well, at least we're laughing, okay?
Don't wave.
I've lost control. What can I say? Roll call, please.
Director Budge,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Aye.
Director Howell,
Yes.
Director Hume,
Aye.
Director Jennings is absent, Director Kennedy,
Aye.
Director Natoli. Director Chenier is absent, Director Cerna,
Aye.
Director Valenzuela,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
That's a yes for me too.
Item 7.2 passes with 9 votes.
All righty, thank you. On to the next item.
The next item, new business, item 7.3 is an information item. Proposed Citizens Transportation Tax Initiative in Sacramento County, and Laura Ham is here to present this item.
Hi, we do have a PowerPoint that'll be coming up for you in just a second. So thank you for the opportunity to share more information with you and with members of the public regarding a proposed transportation ballot initiative in Sacramento County, known as the Sacramento County Transportation Maintenance, Safety, and Congestion Relief Act of 2022. The new initiative, brought forth by a citizens group called Committee for a Better Sacramento, is primarily based on the 2020 Sacramento County measure formulated by the Sacramento Transportation Authority. I'll provide you with a quick overview of where the initiative is at in the process of moving to the ballot, and then discuss the funding identified for SAC-RT in the initiative. Based on estimates, SAC-RT is expected to receive over $3.3 billion over the course of the measure, the 40-year measure. More recent projections show that this could even be up to $3.5 billion, which would be close to $90 million annually. Next slide, please. Recently in California, new court rulings have allowed for citizen initiatives, which create a process for placing an initiative on the ballot by passing governing bodies. As we all know, tax increases are a heavy lift, especially if 2/3 support is required. California's Constitution, Propositions 13 and 218, both require a 2/3 majority of the electorate to approve certain taxes enacted by local government. A recent California court ruling held that these propositions only apply to taxes originating in the legislature or local government, not voter-initiated ballot measures. As long as a ballot measure originates from the voters, a citizens initiative, it only requires 50% plus 1 to pass. Next slide. In July, the Committee for a Better Sacramento submitted gathered signatures to Sacramento County for certification, and you can see the calculations here on this slide. It shows that it was determined that they had 111% of the needed signatures to qualify for the ballot. And also on Wednesday, the Sacramento Transportation Authority will vote to submit the initiative to the voters in November. Next slide. Although the current Measure A provides flexible funding for SAC-RT, it currently supports our operating budget and has supported significant capital projects in the past. The district only receives 1/6 of a penny in local sales tax proceeds under Measure A. Many of our peers across the state receive up to a penny or more in local support, better positioning them to compete for state and federal funding. Next slide. Currently, we have one of the largest and most accelerated capital expansion programs in SAC-RT's history, with over $6 billion in planned initiatives. This program is over 30 years in the making since our light rail starter line was built, and many of our state of good repair programs were deferred due to lack of funding. It includes several categories which are incorporated into our 5-year high priority list, including expansion of our light rail system and conversion to a modern low floor fleet, and leveraging our growth by partnering with and serving transit-oriented development planned on our existing and expanded system, with just a few examples on this list. Our capital program also includes the state-mandated conversion of our bus fleet to zero-emission vehicles, implementation of bus rapid transit in key corridors, and facility modernization and expansion. Our facility growth needs are extensive with the conversion to zero-emission vehicles, with an estimated 45 acres or more needed for our bus facilities alone. Next slide, please. The ballot initiative identifies funding for SAC-RT in several categories, the first of which is maintenance, operations, and transformative system improvements. This category, which is approximately 25% of the funding allocation at $2.6 billion, prioritizes state of good repair. It will allow SAC-RT to continue the implementation of light rail modernization and conversion of the bus fleet to zero emission. It will also provide for the continuation of popular programs such as the Ride Free program for K through 12 students and other fare assistance programs for seniors, people with disabilities, and low-income customers. And in addition, this category would provide for the continuation of the Smart Ride demand response service, increased fixed route bus service levels, as well as SAC-RT's award-winning safety and security programs. Next slide. The next category, which specifically calls out SAC-RT projects, is transit and rail congestion improvement projects at $890 million and 10.85% of the total initiative. This category provides a menu of high-frequency congestion relief transit expansion projects, including multiple high-frequency bus corridors and light rail to the airport, Elk Grove, and even future opportunities for Citrus Heights and Folsom. For any project to secure state and federal funding, it will need to show benefits on a variety of measures, including ridership, reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, plus economic and social equity benefits. Many of these projects remain popular with the community because they would increase mobility, they would ease congestion, and encourage smart development. Next slide. The ADA Paratransit Senior Disabled Transportation category allocates $250 million in additional funding, or 3.05%, equaling over $6 million per year to support federally mandated ADA paratransit service for passengers unable to use the fixed route system, as well as expanded demand response services and other mobility programs for seniors and people with disabilities. 80% is allocated off the top for SAC-RT, with the remaining 20% for eligible transportation programs that could include SAC-RT and other agencies. Next slide. So this measure is very similar to the 2020 expenditure plan that was pulled from the ballot because of COVID. The University of the Pacific Center for Business and Policy Research released an economic impact report on that plan in the summer of 2020. The findings underscore the economic benefits that a measure would have had on Sacramento's economy. Two major findings in the report were: one, the ability to leverage local dollars. The prior measure was expected to generate $8.4 billion over 40 years, and they estimated the region would leverage these funds to secure a total of $13.1 billion in state and federal match over 40 years. Measure A was also estimated, second point is that Measure A was also estimated to create over 121,000 jobs in Sacramento County over the life of the measure. This analysis was conducted prior to the passage of the federal bipartisan infrastructure law, which has increased funding for public transportation almost 60%. We can reasonably expect to bring in more federal and state funds. And you can move to the last slide. This actually concludes my presentation, and I would be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Any questions from directors?
Mr. Chair, I have one.
Go ahead, Linda.
Laura, there was a slide that talked about high-frequency buses, and there's like 5 boulevards or major thoroughfares identified. And I'm wondering how those thoroughfares were identified.
So about a year ago, we presented a high frequency bus study to the board. We conducted an analysis of high ridership corridors and the most likely candidates to move forward for high frequency service and additional study. So that's how they were identified.
Okay. It strikes me that high frequency bus routes would work better on or best on buses with a high degree of bus routes with a high degree of residential riders rather than bus routes with a high degree of commercial and heavy truck traffic users. So that's just a comment. So I would hope that would be discussed further in the future.
Yes, it will. And we'll be looking at uses along the corridor and potential ridership for each of those. Thank you for that comment.
Super. Thanks, Laura.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Director Budge. Any other questions from directors? If not, let's take any public comment. Tabitha?
Jeffrey Tartagia has his hand up.
All right, Jeffrey.
I hope this time this works.
It works.
Okay. We need public transportation dollars for local dollars. My concern with this is the time period because of the way it was put together and who it's principally funding because of the, per se, $2, $3, $4 billion. Where's the rest of that money going? And the question I have back for staff is how does this compare to what's currently going on with Proposition A, dollar category funding wise, compared to this new initiative that's going to be over 40 years. And the last one right now has 10 years, I believe now, for it to run. That's my concern and questions. Simply in regards to this, I encourage every board member to please read this ballot carefully. And I really think it needs to be more regional effort. And James Corliss and our team need to figure out how we get more local dollars together, collected, because we are the only county, Sacramento, that has managed to generate any public transportation tax dollars. And I'll leave it at that right now. I'll stop.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Laura, did you have an answer to this question?
I believe I have a partial answer. As far as how it relates to Measure A, I stated at the beginning, Measure A provides 1/6 of a cent to SAC-RT. We have some flexibility with it to use it for operating capital, but in recent years, it's primarily been used to support operations with some smaller capital projects. Initially, it did support some of our larger capital projects, such as Grain Line to Township 9. and the South Line as well.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
There's no more public comment.
Director comments, or there's no vote on this, so this is informational only. Any other comments by directors? Hearing none. Thank you, Laura. And I think we can move on to the next item, please.
The next item is item 8.1, the general manager's report.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and the public. Let me first wish the Americans with Disability Act an early happy birthday. Tomorrow marks the 32nd anniversary of this vital landmark civil rights law, and we're so appreciative. Then I'd like to begin with some excellent news. Sac County has been awarded over $30 million in state discretionary grant funding through the Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program. This includes nearly $24 million to help purchase additional 8 new light rail vehicles. We have now secured funding for to support the purchase of 44 new light rail vehicles, and with our goal to get to 72. We hope we can, in the next couple of years, we can, to replace all 72, to get 72 new floor, low floor, and state-of-the-art spacious light rail vehicles. And that would be total transformation for our light rail system. Then $5 million from this $30 million will be used to support connectivity and planning at the Sacramento Valley Station, as well as $1.5 million for contactless fare payment devices on board our bus network. We are also excited to see that the most recent state budget includes $3.6 billion for the next TRCP program around, which will come very quickly. Then next slide, please. In addition, I want to thank our federal delegation for championing infrastructure investment and public transportation. Last week, the House of Representatives passed FY23 minibus appropriation package. That includes $3.7 million earmark for Sac County's light rail modernization, thanks to Congressman Ami Bera. The funding will support the renovation and the upgrades of 4 light rail stations to support the new vehicles, which will begin to arrive this winter. I also want to thank Senator Alex Cadena. He has submitted $8.7 million earmark request to support Sac County's light rail modernization program as well in the Senator bill. Next slide. I'm also very pleased to announce that Sac County has officially launched our Sac County in the Community blog. I hope everyone will sign up to receive updates and notifications. We believe the blog will help better connect with our riders and the community while also telling our stories and positive contributions we are making in communities each and every single day. Next. I would just like to relay this important information to our riders. On Friday, July 15th, the A's and the O's light rail station westbound platform and A's and the O Street and the Lines and the O Street bus stops is closed for 3 years due to the construction of the California Department of Water Resources building. The closure will last approximately 3 years, and the light rail passengers should use the Cavis Plaza Station West platform instead. Thank you for your patience during this difficult time. The next slide. On to the next topic. As many of you know, 12th Street in downtown Sacramento is a busy corridor with a mixture of fast traveling cars, pedestrians, and the Sacramento light rail blue line tracks. Sacramento recently conducted a safety and security analysis on this location along the blue line. This section has a long history of heavy pedestrian traffic and trespassing, as you can see in this picture. Following the analysis, we have implemented a few actions to mitigate trespassing, including installing a new no trespassing signage along the segment. And most recently, Sacramento completed a fencing project, which has resulted in a 30% decrease in trespassing along this corridor. I want to thank our team, especially the safety and the security team and our engineering team, to make this happen ASAP. Then a little bit about Sacramento's employment appreciation and the EEO update. I'm truly proud of our workforce and our perseverance and the commitment to our community over the last couple of years. We have been hosting quarterly employee appreciation events to help build morale and thank our workforce for their tireless dedication. I want to thank Director Jennings for stopping by and engaging with our employees. I'm also pleased about how we have caught our workforce up on trainings and established a highly positive working environment and culture. Early this month, I was notified by the head of our EEO office, and he told me that over the last 4 years, none of the complaints about the EEO matters submitted to the EEO office have resulted in a valid finding. In fact, the office did not receive a single sex harassment complaint, no matter valid or non-valid. We did not receive any of that, which FTA officials highly appreciated Sacramento for this excellent result. As I mentioned, attribute this to excellent training and our relentless collective effort to create a culture of respect and equity. Then on to the next slide. And I also want to thank Chair Miller and Vice Chair Kennedy for taking time out of their busy schedules to attend APTA's transit initiatives and the communities workshop last week. As mentioned earlier tonight, it looks like a transportation ballot measure in Sacramento will be in front of Sacramento County voters this November. The conference was a great peer-to-peer conversion to share the experience of other communities' initiatives and the lessons learned. Vice Chair Kennedy shared our experiences and the lessons with the peers across the country. The initiative campaign team had a great press conference last week, and also they host a very productive fundraising campaign event last week too. And prior to the campaign event, the initiative committee raised more than $1.2 million. And on that event last week, the campaign chair announced that the committee raised about $1 million on the spot. Next slide, please. Then we have been asked by the board to provide updates on the status of the Roadsphere Road Safe Parking Program. Last week, following the approvals of timely Federal Transit Administration and the Federal Highway Administration, the three-party lease agreement was executed. Staff is participating in weekly coordination meetings with the City of Sacramento and is preparing for the tentative launch date in fall. Then next slide. To conclude my remarks, I would like to just provide a brief update on COVID. Our region experienced a surge in cases over the last few months, impacting staff levels and service reliability. After seeing over 5 positive cases in both March and April of the year, Sacramento saw a surge with 50 cases in May and then 67 cases in June. Thankfully, we have seen a decline in cases this month with only 25 positive cases within Sacramento's 1,500 workforce. This is a reminder to all of us, please take precautions and be safe. This concludes my remarks. Thanks. Get back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Henry. Any questions from directors? If not, I'll take public comment. Tabitha?
Jeffrey Tartagia has his hand up.
Well, if this works, my first comment will be both thank you, Henry, for a visual report and hopefully one that will be ongoing in the future about what is changing. Yes, I got to see what went on at 12th Street, and that's very much improvement to get of those loaves and fishes and the Salvation Army. What my concern is related to the light rail location at 9th and O Street being closed. Is there a sandwich board at 8th and O directing where you go? Because unless you're going all the way down on 9th Street, several blocks away to try and get a southbound bus, it would seem to me like more likely the 7th would be a better location to redirect people to. But there's a few other areas. If you're only going to use the Archive Plaza, again, how they get alternatively around with that for the next 3 years stopped. And also the buses that started at 8th and O, where are they now starting out at? Is that notified in the website and indicating what is changed for the next 3 years? Those are concerns that I observe and see, and I believe they need to be examined further, and some sandwich boards need to be assisted in light rail bus stops that will provide the public with better information about what they need to do in seeking alternative pathways. Again, that's partly my public comment in regards to what I see. But again, I also say, thank you, Henry, for in the general manager's report, it both being more written there available and they can actually access it. That's something I appreciate from last meeting of Linda Budge, remarking that by putting it in certain places, it then becomes publicly readable and able to read and see. The last comment, 30 seconds I'm going to spend in the report there is the comment about an accident that I had and dealing with the fact of, should we say, the insurance services. That wasn't my concern. My concern was how reports get reported to being directly put to, and then the route by which they get to dealing with the contact of the information services. I have heard various reports about that, and knowing what I experienced in November and what I experienced in 2 other times, it seems to be an issue. And that's my public comment in there. That seems to be not what I got across last month's meeting about my concern. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for your comments, Jeffrey. Any other public comment?
Glenn Mandelkorn has his
Go
hand up.
ahead, Glenn.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Okay, so yeah, actually, what Jeff Tartagia just said caused me to think about the need to update your schedules for those buses that start at 8th and O. I just happened to, as he was talking, I looked for the 129 schedule since I use that fairly often. I was thinking more in terms of newcomers, people who want to experiment with taking routes. The online schedules for those routes that are affected by the closure of those bus stops, those need to be modified as well. So just wanted to give you a heads up or double on what Jeff said. Thank you.
Thank you for your observations, Glenn. Any other public comment?
I don't see any other hands.
Any director comments before we move on? Hearing and seeing none. Next item, please, Tabitha.
The next item, number 9, reports, ideas, and questions from directors. Item 9.1, the Capital Corridor JPA meeting summary from June 15th, 2022, and Michael Cormier is available if there are any questions.
Thank you. I have none. And hearing none others?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
Not about the report, but I appreciate Henry letting all of us know about the 32nd anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. He also sent it out in a I don't know, call it a blog or whatever today, which is how I knew about it. And it seems to me that this would be a good evening to acknowledge the participation of not only our loyal participants currently, but also a couple of people who really brought issues of access for all to regional transit quite some time ago. And one of them would be Jim Notley, who was a perfectly lovely person that I knew quite well, who has since passed on. And then Francis Gracechild from Resources for Independent Living. Both of them brought to this organization and heightened awareness of what it's like when you can't just open the door because there's no automatic button to push. And so it seems like we should adjourn tonight in their honor.
Duly noted. Thank you, Director Budge. Before we close, is there any public comment on this?
Jeffrey Tartagia has his hand up.
Okay, you want to comment on the Capital Corridor or what Director Budge just had to say?
I can comment on both, but the comment is, if I read the report correctly, for that meeting, there was no RT representation. But Mike Barnbaum had a great
Well, we lost you, Jeffrey.
Can you still hear me?
Now I can.
Sorry, Barbara's calling me on the phone. I'll talk with her after this. But the last thing I want to, which is off topic, is Henry, you didn't mention about the transit center discussing about operator shortage. I'm going to that meeting. I appreciate you acknowledging it's out there and encourage, if somebody needs to know about it. And the other thing is there is a Zoom meeting tomorrow for the ADA taking place at 11 o'clock. I can send your clerk the invite to the Zoom for it if there is an interest. Again, I will leave it at those two notes.
All right, thanks, Jeffrey. Next item, please.
That is it. There is no closed session this evening.
All right, then Director Budge, would you restate and close the meeting?
Of course. Thank you, Chair. I would request that we adjourn tonight in memory of Jim Notley and Francis Gracechild.
Thank you. With a moment of silence, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you.
Good evening.